told JD, are you on YouTube?
Me?
Yeah. She says YouTube's not working.
Just barely. Like,
Oh.
who says that?
Anne Marie.
Have them try again. It says there are 2 watching.
I know. There is. They're like all broken. Let me send you the new one I just sent you a text. Maybe it's on the phone. Do you want me to try this one? Okay. I'll email it to you. Okay, just a second.
State of the art.
I don't know what happened to that link, it just says invalid. So I got John David, Commissioner Gray, Commissioner three members of the public. Either one. Whichever one that lets me click on. Okay, I'll watch for the start here. Okay. Okay, Joe Davis, she's mentioned you're up on both.
Drilling in the background was getting.
Can you hear it?
I could hear on one of those.
Can you hear it back?
Huh?
Can you hear it back?
That's why I closed the door.
Okay. If you can still pick it up, let me know, like, push it in my office.
Ready?
Yeah. Commissioner Marable. Can you hear me, Commissioner Marable?
Were you able to send that Zoom link? It didn't come through.
Let me check and see here. Okay, Chad just
What's your email for?
Yes, I was just making sure our mute was enabled.
Yep, and then M-A-B-E-Y, no hyphens, no nothing. J-A-N.
Can you hear me, Commissioner Lloyd?
B-E-Y.
I can hear you.
Perfect. At Gmail.
Ready?
I think so. Yeah, sorry about the delay, everybody. And that broken link, I don't know what happened.
Go ahead and open the meeting at this time. Juan County Commissioner, Utah. Time is 11:18 or 19?
19.
19. Go ahead and call the meeting, a roll call. We have Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Maryboy and myself. Corn. Any volunteer to do the prayer, opening prayer? Mr. Adams.
Our dear Father in heaven, as we come before thee as commissioners and public in San Juan County and our staff, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to meet and discuss county business. We ask you to bless us this day, that the things that we'll discuss and work on today will be in accordance with state laws and federal laws, and that we'll do the right thing. We're grateful for our county employees and for all who might be in harm's way this day. We ask you to protect them. We're grateful for our staff and for their diligence in attending to the business of the county. We ask you to bless our president and our governor, that they will likewise make good decisions for the people of this great country. We're grateful to be here today and be attending to this business, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Our next on the agenda is the public comment. So we have people on the line.
Let's see here. So, just as a reminder regarding the public comments and the rules that govern it, you should be able to unmute yourself on here. Once I call on you, you can raise your hand. There is a feature, if you click by your name, where you can raise your hand and lower your hand on there to give a public comment. Public comments will be taken for 3 minutes apiece, which we will be timing you. Please remember to be courteous and kind in your comments. Where this is a public comment period, it's an opportunity for the commissioners to hear you and not necessarily engage in a dialogue with that. If you're past your 3 minutes, you can continue on. This feature does have the ability to mute, so you'll be muted if you continue to carry on. I'll try to capture you. If you're unable to raise your hand on your system, whether you're by phone, we'll get to you after we get through everybody that's wishing to raise their hand on here, to give those comments, and then we'll just kind of go in order as we see them, and I'll call it out. With that being said, the first one that I have on here, let's see, I've got David Picardi up at the top. David, just also please state your name and where you live within the county.
Hey, this is Dave Picardi. I'm out in the field in California, but I live on 4900 Sunny Acres Lane, just on the edge of San Juan County. And I'm still interested in being on the Special Service District. I'm surprised no one there has reached out to me in any form. And I got to get back to work, but thanks, that's my comment.
Get a full screen, much fair.
Thanks, David. See, I've got Carolyn. So Carolyn, your neck, you should be able to unmute yourself. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. This is Carolyn Daly from Spanish Valley. I am again asking you to appoint Monette Clark and Dave Ficardi to the Spanish Valley Special Service District Board, which I won't keep saying the name of. I'm just going to call it the board. I know you have been trying to do this for 2 meetings now, so I hope it will be accomplished today. I personally think it is an affront to the commissioners that the current board has again recommended reappointing themselves when the commissioners have already expressed their desire to appoint Monette and Dave to 2 of the vacancies. The commissioners have the full authority to appoint whomever they wish, as well as the duty to do what they think is best, and are not bound by any recommendations. I also now see it as even more imperative to make changes in this board. Because of mistakes by the current board, a $750,000 settlement has to be paid to one contractor, and there is another settlement pending likely to be as big. Funds are having to be raised because of their mistakes. It's the ratepayers who use the water and septic services that will have to pay this burden of possibly $1.5 million. It is not only unwise, but to me almost unethical to reappoint board members who have failed so badly in their fiduciary duty to the public. The board needs new members who will promote the interests of residents and provide transparency. It is nearly impossible to find out about their meetings because the minutes do not give details of discussions and the meetings are not recorded. Their bylaws are also not available online. The board's insistence on not letting in new members makes me suspicious of what they might be trying to hide. Both Monette and Dave are not only very qualified, but even more important than their qualifications. They will represent residents' interests and implement much needed transparency in the Special Valley Service District, Spanish Valley Special Service District. Water is scarce in Spanish Valley and is of concern to everyone in northern San Juan County. Our NSJC coalition represents over 70 property owners and taxpayers who are deeply concerned that the right decisions will be made about water for the future of Spanish Valley. Please appoint Monette Clark and Dave Ficardi in the 2 vacancies of Mike Bynum and Lloyd Wilson, and keep Frank Darcy, the past chairman, for the 3rd vacancy, since it will provide continuity. Thank you for your consideration of my views, and I apologize we'll be unable to stay for the full meeting.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised for public comments. Anyone else wishing to make a public comment on here? You can go ahead and, let's see. Do you have Monet? Tony, can you unmute yourself?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm one of the applicants for the Special Service District to serve on the board. I still am interested in serving on the board, and I do think that Mr. Picardi has the qualifications that are needed to carry the Special Service District into the future. He's a geologist and has done hydrology work. He's the kind of person that we need on the board. For myself, I'm a customer of the district and my water bill is doubled, and I haven't even been able to hook up to the district yet, but I'm paying the bill, which is okay, because I find that I would. But I do think that we need more citizen participation on the board. I feel that Mr. Wilson, he's in many different capacities in Spanish Valley, and he's running the water board, daily operations as the contractor. He also is a board member, and my understanding is that he has all the historical knowledge of the installation and all of the things that have happened with contractors that it's almost impossible to replace Mr. Wilson at this time. And I did not realize that he was the only one carrying all this information. So the decision today is going to be a possible hard one, but I think that you have the wisdom to make that choice. Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bynum appear that they probably don't, I don't know. I just think Mr. Wilson might have to stay for another 4 years, I don't know. But at any rate, we have to remember that we do have 2 other board members whose terms are expiring soon, and we might be able to get more citizens on the board at that time. So, with that said, I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in my community. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Wait, you said this call so fast. I've got Frank, it looks like you're unmuted. Did you want to speak for the public comments on there, Frank?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Good morning, I'm Frank Darcy. I'm the chairman of the San Juan Spanish Valley Special Service District. And I would humbly like to encourage the commissioners to accept our board's recommendation to retain the 3 board members as voted on. That's really about all I have to say on that. I do take a little bit of exception as to the slanderous comments made about the board members and our lawsuits that were created by an engineering firm, not us. So we need to get our facts totally straight before we start throwing comments out like that. I would also like to encourage any Spanish Valley Special Service District citizens who would like to volunteer to serve on that board in the future to attend our meetings, and when openings are available, and present themselves for consideration. That's the proper process. So I thank you all for hearing me out. And we're done.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Oh, okay.
I'm not able to raise my hand. If I'm speaking out of turn, I apologize. This is Andrea Wilson.
Hey, Andrea, go ahead.
I'm speaking on behalf of my husband and all the board members, the Spanish Valley Water board members who have worked tirelessly. They do it on a volunteer basis. My husband right now is Lloyd Wilson, as many of you know, he's on East Coronado right now taking care of a water leak. Most of the board knows how to do this, and this is something that I don't think a lot of the people understand, that when we get called from the sheriff's department or from a property owner, it can be any time of day, 365 days a year. And when I'm saying we, I'm speaking of my husband, because this affects me as well. The board does not set water rates as far as how much you pay. I want that to be known. And also, I think the board that we have right now works very hard to be transparent. Everyone, including Ms. Clark, have been invited publicly to the meeting several times because she has contacted my administrative assistant. But they don't show up. So that's what I have to say. I think the board should stand as the board recommends, because they all play a serious role in what they do. They do it voluntarily, and they work very hard for this community. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? So Ty, go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that, Matt. This is, sorry guys, I had a call come through right when it happened. Apologize. Ty Shumway here, just northern Spanish Valley, just across the border, but grew up in San Juan County my whole life. I just want to give kudos to Spanish Valley Special District for what they're doing for everyone in Spanish Valley. I've been really impressed from what I've seen and the little bit I have been involved. But I just want to make a comment that the board has done an awesome job, and I give them kudos.
Thanks, Ty. Okay, anyone else wishing to make a public comment? If you're on the phone, go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Going once, going twice. Okay, commissioners, that looks to be all that you have today for public comment. So turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Going next to, public comments is consent agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Vidal, can you probably read the whole 3-page, 2.5 page?
So, yeah, let me read the agenda in, just for your approval, and then I'll come back and go through each of the consent agenda items. So on the consent agenda, there's 13 items on there. So you've got approval of the March 2nd, 2021 commission meeting minutes, approval of the check registers from February 23rd through March 30th, 2021. You've got the annual employee benefit renewal forms approval. Number 4, ratification of a small purchase of $4,747.50 for Surveyor equipment. You've got continued COVID-19 response grant of $5,000 for public libraries. Number 6, approval of amendment number 2 between the Utah Department of Health and San Juan Public Health for San Juan County. This is tuberculosis prevention and control contract amendment for $2,296. Got the approval of the contract amendment number 1 between the Utah Department of Health and San Juan Public Health for COVID-19 San Juan County vaccine supplemental support funding for $85,478. Item number 8, approval of contract amendment number 2 between the Utah Department of Health and San Juan Public Health for San Juan County Health Department STD disease intervention services, 2019 for $2,000. Got the approval of amendment number 1 for the memorandum of agreement, FY 2017 through 2021 general provisions between Utah Department of Health Business Associate Agreement with San Juan County, modifying the terms to expire June 30th, 2023, and the general provisions therein. Item number 10, approval of the purchase of the replacement truck for the road department for a total of $3,694.80. You've got approval of purchase and installation of an air conditioning system for the Cal Black Airport by Moab Heat and Cool for $8,490.39. Item 12, approval of the Monticello Cemetery Board recommendation for the appointment of vacancies, and then number 13 is the same, approval of the Monticello Cemetery Board recommendation for the appointment of vacancies. It's a duplicate item there. Under recognitions, presentations, and informational items, you've got the Southeastern Utah Regional Transportation Plan Review. Item 15, draft of the Historic Property Treatment Plan, Canyon Rim Travel Management Plan. Item 16, you've got Beaver Creek Restoration Project. Under Business and Action, item 17, you have the public hearing and consideration of a petition to vacate and close D1834 and D5307 roads. This will be presented by TJ Adair, our Road Department Superintendent. Item 18, consideration and approval of purchase 129,000 gallons of Pass oil to chip seal roads for FY 2021. 19, you've got consideration and approval of the Library Services and Technology Act contract grant for $5,000 between San Juan County Library Systems and Utah Department of Heritage and Arts. That'll be presented by Nicole Perkins, the Library Director. On item 20, you've got consideration and approval of a contract between San Juan County and Dr. Michael Q. Nielsen for required medical director services for the San Juan County Sheriff's Office. That'll be presented by our Sheriff Torgerson. 21, you've got approval of the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem in Southeastern Utah support letter for Southeastern Utah Economic Development for their grant request to the U.S. Economic Development Administration. And then 22, consideration and approval of the 2021 sponsorship agreement between San Juan County and Chadwick's Booth and Company for $17,000. And then you got item 23, Spanish Valley Special Service District Board recommendation appointment approval. And then 24 is a resolution of San Juan County Board of Commissioners supporting the findings and recommendation of the Dene Team Bahane Navajo Road Emergence, the Navajo Nation White Paper 2021. This will be presented by Commissioner Mary Roy. That, Commissioners, is your full agenda for today.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda items.
Or just the agenda altogether.
Yeah.
Oh, just to approve the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Total reading. Okay. Is there a second?
Approve agenda, yes, I will second that.
Okay. Any, changes?
Commissioner, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mary Boy. Go ahead.
Make, call the adjustment to move, item 11, either into an action item or delete the item off of the agenda.
It is an action item.
So item 11 is the purchase and installation of the air conditioning for Cal Black Airport. That's on the consent agenda item. So you're wanting to move that to the business action item and discuss it?
Yeah, because once we approve the consent items, that's gonna be one of the items that we're gonna be approving.
Correct.
And, I'd rather have a discussion on that before we make a decision on that particular item.
Okay, perfect.
So that will go to,
We just move it down to the top of the business action item.
okay. Anything else? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Aye also. Opposed? 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay. So back to the consent agenda, you have the approval of the March 2nd, 2021 commission minutes. And following that, your February 23rd through March 30th, 2021 check registers. Item number 3 on here is the annual employee benefit renewal forms for approval. This is our stop loss coverage. This covers anything over 50% for the county. This is kind of like our insurance to our insurance. Last year, just a couple of highlights. We had 131 enrollees that were subscribed to the county's insurance. This year, we're at 129, so just minus 2 on there. The cost per prescription on vision has gone up. Used to be 90 cents last year, went up to $1.95. But then when you look at our prescriptions on retail and generic brands, those costs have gone down through the year, and so it kind of provides a wash on our insurance. But the stop loss, just as a reminder, this will cover anything where we are self-funded, self-insured. This makes sure that we're covered if there's something tragic that we cannot cover within our own capabilities and our own budget. So that's kind of what this provides. Anything, our individual stop loss is up to 100,000. Our aggregate individual stop loss is 50,000. And then on here to note is we do have a laser. It's a lasered participant. A lasered participant is somebody that specifically has a higher deductible because of their illness or the insurance obligations that they may have going forward. So as a carrier, Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield had seen some of the medical coming out on that and put a higher deductible on that individual, which they can at the beginning of renewal. And so they did that. So that new higher individual stop loss, instead of 100,000, is actually $250,000 for that one specific user of our insurance. That employee no longer works with the county, and so there shouldn't ever be an issue with that. Also, just kind of going forward, just know that as we meet every year with our insurance provider and kind of our consultant that helps us through our insurance, they go through and kind of look at what's out on market, what is available, and we were able to find that the Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield is pretty, not necessarily super favorable to the county, but kind of right at market. Some of the costs per user prescription have actually decreased over the year. A lot of that, last year we had a really good year on our insurance where we didn't have a lot of costs, a lot of expenditures for medical on our insurance. I think part of this was due to the fact that with our insurance and hospitalization in general, they stopped doing elective surgeries due to COVID and went strictly COVID protection in our hospitals. And so because of that, this last year, our medical costs weren't as high. And so we're hoping that continues in practice, where a lot of employees, there's just not a lot of need here for medical service, medical attention. But if there is that, most of those costs are down from last year, just seeing our trend in general. So that kind of gives a brief explanation of that big long packet of insurance in there, but this is just the annual renewal of that. On item 4, you have the ratification of a small purchase of $4,747.50. This is for Surveyor equipment. This is on a state contracted vendor, so we'll go out and purchase that GPS system and the stick that holds it. Next one, you've got the state grant of $5,000 that was awarded to the library system for the use of PPE equipment, digital inclusion projects, online programming creation, youth services, and vital summer reading programs. That one was due last month, so we went ahead and signed for that agreement. We're bringing it back here for ratification today. On item 5, you got continued COVID response grant. Let's see, let me make sure. Sorry, item number 6, approval of amendment number 2 between the Utah Department of Health and San Juan Public Health for San Juan County. This is the tuberculosis prevention and control contract. This increases the contract of $2,296 for a total amount of $4,592. This is a cost reimbursement contract for tuberculosis prevention and controls. It's been pretty hard for us here in public health to steer away from COVID contract tracing, as well as general vaccine distribution. So a lot of our contracts haven't been seeing a lot of attention, which they typically would, just because of COVID and that vaccine distribution. But as we get to a level playing field where we think a lot of our population has been vaccinated, you'll see workings taking place more back into the contract realm. These contracts here that you're seeing before you today are reimbursement contracts, so it's not necessarily that we're going to get the money, but we have up to that amount where we can go out and offer programs to the public. And if we do, we can reimburse up to those totals that are in here. The next one, item 7, approval of the contract amendment number 1 between the Utah Department of Health and San Juan Public Health for COVID-19 vaccine supplemental support funding. This one jumped up in the contracted amounts, which we're grateful for. It went up to $85,478. So the total amount of funding that's been allocated to San Juan County in federal funds is $144,278 to help with COVID reimbursables. And so we were kind of struggling and getting to the point where we were about out of COVID money. This helps us market the vaccine distribution. So kind of like I mentioned previously, where we think that we've vaccinated probably over half of our population, we're getting to the point now as we have appointments that aren't being filled here by San Juan County residents. So we think there's either San Juan County residents are kind of off and waiting. We've vaccinated the majority who feel that they wanted it and were in a rush to get it. Now we need to start marketing to our citizens so we can try to get a higher participation rate in our vaccines. And these funds here will help go to that marketing effort, as well as just general costs with vaccine and COVID tracking. On, let's see, item number 8, you have approval of a contract amendment number 2 between the Utah Department of Health and San Juan Public Health for San Juan County Health Department. This is the STD Disease Intervention Services. This is a bump in $2,000 in federal funds. Again, it's a cost reimbursement contract. The new total on this contract will be $13,000. The next item on the agenda here is item number 9, approval of amendment number 1 for the Memorandum of Agreement, FY 2017 through 2021. This is general provisions between the Utah Department of Health Business Associate Agreement with San Juan County, modifying the term date to expire on June 30th, 2023, and the general provisions within that agreement. This is more textual changes to the agreement. There's not funding that's tied to this, but we have to have this MOA in place in order to receive funding and receive grants and contractual participation from the state. Kind of sets up our marching orders and how we handle and store personal data, grammar requests, and then overall, in general, kind of how we operate as a public health entity for San Juan County. Item number 10, you have the road department purchase of a pickup. They had a vehicle that was stolen. Our insurance will pay $35,900 on the loss. It was an older vehicle, and so to replace that vehicle, they're asking to use $3,694.80 out of their budget to replace that vehicle. Ford is one of the state vendors for vehicles for us as well. Item 11, you had moved down to business action items, and then the final one on here is 12 and 13. Both of these are the same. You have the appointment of the Monticello Cemetery Board recommendation for the appointments of vacancies. Nobody, as I advertised this in the paper back in December, nobody's come forward for that, but Tanya, who's been working as one of the board members on Monticello Cemetery Board, has been able to reach out and recruit people, which is awesome. Not a lot of people are willing to come out and work on a cemetery board, and so we're grateful for those members that we have. So this would be the renewing Tanya Lowry, as well as adding Julie Adams Bunker and Chris Allen to this board, so that'll make it a 5-person with Tanya, Wynn Westcott, and Bernie Christensen being on the Monticello Cemetery Board. That, Commissioners, is your consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Maryboy.
I'd like to make a motion, all the way from 1 and to 7, contract agreement, and also number 8 contract agreement as well, and number 9 approval of the amendment for 1 memorandum of agreement, number 10 approval of purchase replacement truck for the Department of Road Department, and number 12 now happen to be 11 approved with number 12 as well, both of the cemetery board. Just assuming that we have some people recommended to be appointed to that position. So from all the way from 1 to 12, I will make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion with comment. I think there are people that have been dying to get into the cemetery, but not so many dying to get on the board.
Hey, Bruce? Bruce,
Yeah,
do you remember, when Stephen used to say that you'd rather not go to the cemetery unless somebody takes him?
yep, I do.
Any change? Discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye also. 3 opposed, none. The motion carries.
Okay. So next on your agenda, we moved that to the business action, so we'll be on 14.
okay,
On the recognitions, so under recognitions, presentations, and informational items. On here, so as you're looking at 14, Southeastern Utah Regional Transportation Plan Review. Next commission meeting, I'll bring back a resolution, just kind of acknowledging your support with the Southeastern Utah Regional Transportation Plan findings, in fact, and kind of overall recommendations that plan lists in here. We've been working on this for months now, with the company that, is kind of in charge and been hired by Moab City, Grand County, Silla, and San Juan County to take us through this planning, regional transportation study. With that, we also reached out to several members of our community, mainly the businesses there that would be directly impacted in Spanish Valley, and elicited participation. We're grateful for Sean and Nancy Campbell of St. Dean's Cabins, as well as Ryan Holyoke, who represented LeGrand there in Spanish Valley, as well as Commissioner Adams, and we had Natalie Randall set on the steering committee on this transportation plan as well. Overall, it was a regional transportation plan that really had a majority of its focus in Moab and Grand County, and kind of all the way up to Green River, a large focus there in Moab City with some of the issues that they're having in regards to transportation, multimodal transportation initiatives, as well as the potential for a future frontage road in Spanish Valley. And that was our primary focus and goal in Spanish Valley, was to begin and put on the capital planning and the future planning efforts as the need for that frontage road that will help hopefully lessen some of the impacts that you see along 191 that as it transfers through this area. If we were able to get that frontage road system, it'll pull the majority of the traffic off into a different mode of transportation with less intersections throughout the area. So we're hoping with less intersections that you'll have fewer accidents taking place in that area. And so kind of for us, it was more of a futuristic plan, is making sure that we start to lay the groundwork now, and then seek funding in the future. But it's pretty much to put it on everybody's radar that we do need to have some type of a frontage road system throughout that area, and then it'll kind of go down through into Moab area as well. And so it's something that people, residents there, can jump on that frontage system instead of having it go back out on 191. But I did want to let the public know that we do have this available. It's been advertised in the papers, but a lot of times some of our residents, they may not be necessarily paying attention, so they would skip it. So I did provide a link to the story maps on here and the draft version of that plan, and so feel free to go onto that website and that link that's provided in here. Provide any comments that you do have with that plan. The plan's pretty much in its final stages, but I did want that to open that up to public purview, so that you can go through and comment on there. If you have any concerns or comments that you'd like to provide, they welcome you to it on that website. And so this one here is mostly just informational only, and just as a reminder, our contract commitment for this is only $5,000, so not a lot. Any questions, commissioners, with that item?
What type of coordination are we pursuing this with the Moab, city of Moab? And because they're 191 is the main system,
It is.
and you're talking about bypass.
Mm-hmm.
You need to build, I guess, there's not that much room for another road system. Maybe talking about besides what they do at the Bay Bridge in San Francisco. You have the top level and the bottom level.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. I appreciate that. On the whole, because it's a regional transportation plan, Grand County took part in this, as well as Moab City, and each of us had focus committee members that were a part of that. So some of the downtown businesses took place, were part of this steering and focus group, as well as city council members, Grand County commissioners were a part of this, and it's kind of one big effort throughout that whole region. They probably had a heavier hand in everything, we had Sitla that was on board with this as well, kind of providing comments. They've got a valid interest in Spanish Valley, but we had a lot of good participation as far as government to government coordination.
Mm-hmm.
So they were certainly there, and they brought up and helped kind of with some of those priorities. One of them that you mentioned was that bypass route. There's concerns with the bypass. UDOT, they still recommend having the bypass on there. There's some residents in Moab who they're not particularly interested in a bypass, but it's still, when you look at planning efforts, it's on one of the long-range plans that's listed through there. I don't know if they'll be able to afford a bridge type of the system, but they're running out of room as development creeps in to that area. If it is something that leadership in Moab and Grand County is willing to entertain, then they need to kind of start looking at easements and rights of way to put that type of system, because they're running out of room.
Yeah, it's very congested.
Yeah.
When you drive through, even though it's not busy day, it's still kind of a concern
Yeah.
to the increase of traffic when it does come to that.
Yeah, it is. One of those you'll see in the study as well as, there's a big effort right now for truck parking. That's one of the concerns that Moab City has, is as they widen the lanes to try to ease up some of that congestion throughout Moab City. A lot of trucks park on that road, and where do the trucks go? And so is there an opportunity in the future for a designated truck parking, that trucks could then move out of the city area and park, whether it's further on into Spanish Valley or before Moab. It's kind of a higher level planning. Nothing has really been committed, but it's really looking at the whole entire region, what do we need to do to help eliminate some of these concerns and mitigate some of the traffic problems that they have. So the study, this is only a summary that I presented in here. The study itself was over 100 pages, so I left the whole study out. You'll see that next commission meeting as kind of a resolution to get that.
As I came on board in the commission, I know Bruce did mention one study that was done to divert the traffic downflow from Moab to do a interstate type of a road system. I wonder what became of that.
It's just a long-range plan, and they asked elected officials in the entire state of Utah to give input to the long-range investment transportation plan. And I just suggested that we as a county commission would submit a comment asking for more lanes of traffic from Spanish Fork down into San Juan County. But that's long-range planning, maybe 10 years out. And they don't have to accept what we suggest. They just ask for comments of what maybe we would want in our area of the state. And that's what I had recommended, that we have more lanes of traffic from Spanish Fork down into San Juan County. But they won't act on that for several years.
Yeah. That leakage probably would alleviate. Reconnecting somewhere, holding the rock somewhere. Or further southeast. I don't know. It seems to,
It's a lot of country, huh?
yeah, a lot of rough terrain there. Canyon walls to run into.
There's places where they could do it really easy right now. As you get off the freeway and turn towards Moab, a lot of that country between the freeway and the Moab airport is very flat, very wide. They could they could widen it to 4 lanes fairly inexpensive, and I would hope that they'd look at some of those kind of places first of all that could be fairly inexpensive but could help move the traffic a lot better.
Yeah. I haven't looked at the terrain yet. Aerial view. Imagine the formations are staggered this way on this side of the river. So I assume that the possibility at the low of the terrain would just put a wagon trail in there.
Something.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my question and comment.
Okay, any other questions with that item? Okay, let's see. Yeah, Commissioner.
Do you foresee any kind of a state and federal funding trickling through this project? I think it's a great idea, but it would be nice to know that there's going to be some kind of funding available to keep the project going.
Yeah, so where this was just a planning effort, anytime you seek federal funding, you have to have a capital plan. Same with the state. State is gonna require a capital plan. UDOT was a part of this agreement. They kind of help guide the capital planning with us, and so it's really a bottom-up approach where you look at that frontage road system off of 191. If there's federal funds that the state can apply for, you know, they could certainly do that, knowing that we have it registered here on our capital plan. And then also, when the state legislators meet and they go over transportation projects, this is something that they can have on their radar as well for San Juan County. And so a lot of it is you go through the planning efforts like this to make sure that it's on your capital plan, and then you start to seek the available funding after that fact. And so we're certainly hoping that either resource can come to fruition for us.
Okay. Motion.
Okay,
Okay, next item on the agenda is the draft historic property treatment plan, Canyon Rims travel management plan. This one is provided by Nick. Nick, are you still there? I saw him earlier.
I am. Can you hear me all right, commissioners?
Yep.
Yes.
Good afternoon. In its efforts regarding the National Historic Preservation Act responsibilities and the preparation of the Canyon Rims Travel Management Plan, BLM has determined that 3 historic properties on BLM administered lands could be adversely affected by road designation in the travel management plan. You may recall that the Canyon Rims Travel Management Plan includes Hatch Point and Schaefer Basin, as well as a section of Cane Springs. The State Historic Preservation Office has concurred with that determination of adverse effect. And this determination requires the development of an historic property treatment plan for those 3 sites that could be adversely affected. And I believe Max sent a copy of that draft plan to the commissioners last month for your review. Now, the 3 sites of concern include a lithic quarry, 4 petroglyph panels, ash stained soil, ground, stone, and artifact scatterers. The proposed treatments, which to avoid, minimize, or mitigate impacts to these sites include realignment of pedestrian trails to the site, blockage of user-created vehicle pull-out areas, signage, public outreach and education, and monitoring of the sites. Now, closure of a road or realigning of a road to avoid or at distance between the road and the cultural site are not practical options because of one or more of the following. Either the road doesn't directly impact the site, the road is the only access in a particular locale, moving the road could potentially impact unknown buried, historic, or cultural deposits. One road happens to be a county-maintained Class B road, and it's the only access in that area. And topography may not allow moving of the road. Now, as a cooperating agency and a consultant party in the travel management planning process, San Juan County has the opportunity to comment on this draft treatment plan. Now, the comment period happens in April 9th. Now, the letter before you contains comments on this draft plan. It states that the proposed treatments to avoid, minimize, or mitigate potential impacts to the 3 sites are reasonable, comprehensive, and consistent with the policies and objectives of the San Juan County Resource Management Plan, and that San Juan County concurs with the draft plan. Now, you have that letter before you for your consideration, and if you agree, it is ready for signature.
Motion, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like to make a motion, Matt?
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
Motion? Is that your motion, Mr. Mayor Boy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Adams. Any further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 I'll abstain. Makes it a little more colorful. Two in favor, zero opposed, one abstain.
All right. Thank you for
Next.
that. You've got, the next one on here is the Beaver Creek Restoration Project. This one will also be presented by Nick.
Vehicle travel across Beaver Creek on the National Forest, approximately 6 air miles northeast of LaSalle, has caused erosion, so that the creek now flows down a portion or a section of the road, making the road a 2-foot deep trench with running water. The roads are Forest Service roads, but the county has given them county road numbers in the county travel plan. Now, the Forest Service proposal includes widening and improving of County Road D5037 to accommodate material haul trucks, adding road material to harden the creek crossing and restore the eroded road surface to proper elevation, the installation of 3 beaver dam analogs upstream of the crossing to stabilize the stream, improve water quality, and improve the fishery habitat. And the final proposal is to close 2 roads, D5037 and D5038, west of the crossing, close those to public use with a fence and a locked gate. Now, in your packet, you have some maps that you may be referring to for reference as to the location. I think it would be the middle map in your packet, which shows a section of the National Forest with the county road numbers written in. County Road D5037 is a north-south trending road, which actually crosses Beaver Creek. And as it crosses Beaver Creek, it then splits into another road, which is D5038. Both of these forks, road forks going to the west, lead to Livestock Ponds Reservoir. The aerial photo that you, I believe, have in your packet shows that area in a little more detail. It shows the D5037 from the south, proceeding to the north and then turning to the west. And as it turns to the west, it crosses Beaver Creek and then continues on to the west into the 2 forks of that road. The Beaver Creek crossing is approximately in the center right of that photo. Now, the Forest Service has posted this proposal for public review during a public comment period, which will end April the 9th. And the letter before you makes comments on the proposal, and the key points being a concern with the closure of roads that have been approved for public use and used by the public for decades, and also a desire to collaborate, the county to collaborate with the Forest Service to consider other possible alternatives to the closure of the roads. And in the letter, we make the request that the Forest Service delay a decision on this proposal until the county and the Forest Service have an opportunity to meet on the ground and consider other potential solutions and potentially pool resources to resolve the issues. And I recommend that we send this letter to the Forest Service with these comments. September,
what was the, system number, road numbers?
The main road from the south is D5037 on the map that's on the screen before you. It's shown as a yellow, color.
I don't have the map.
Right here.
Max, shall I bring these maps up into the conference room there?
It's in your
Page,
packet, page 226.
If you look in 226, also has the maps on page.
Down in the right-hand corner. 226.
On page right here. On there.
Is there another road, that they're talking about? This one is from USDA, Department of Agriculture,
The
Forest
for-
Service
The
number
Forest Service lists their roads in a
four
different number.
seven
than we do.
three one.
4731.
The Forest Service lists their roads at a different number than the county has. So they're the same road, Forest Service has their unique numbers and the county has a unique number.
Is
So-
this one in the same then?
Yeah.
1 mile section to be closed, proposed by Forest Service.
There's a 1 mile section on the one and then the other one's a little over 2 miles, if I believe.
Commissioner, this is a aerial photo of this area you're looking at on this photo here. This main road from the south comes forward, then turns to the west and crosses Beaver Creek about right there. Then it continues on and makes the two forks there, which are on this other map. This is the creek crossing, the two forks, dead end at Livestock Ponds there.
What's this section?
This road continues to the north, and it shows up a little better on your other map.
Where's the creek bed?
It's hard to see on this, but it's right in here, where these trees have grown. Runs in this direction.
It only has water in it when it rains, so it never has water in it.
Like, no, I think there, right there, this is a perennial.
Yeah, Beaver
in
Creek
that
runs,
location.
that's why there's a fish in it that they
Yeah.
wanna keep running.
That's what,
The livestock ponds is, we want for hunting and different things like that people access those. That's why from the county standpoint, we don't want those.
but the
roads.
creek bed is the one that's been displacement of, sand or gravel.
It would be gravel and probably larger rock to harden that creek crossing.
Well,
To
right
prevent
now,
erosion.
it's not being addressed, so they just tear through, instead of taking the other rock, they're going through this challenging their skill, I guess.
No, that's an existing road, and it
Yeah.
has been.
But there's an alternative route that they could get out.
The creek crosses the road, and so it's just washed out the road, and now it's turning down the road instead of going in the creek like it should. So they wanna reestablish the creek bed in the road, and so that's what we're talking about, is doing something with them, so we can establish the creek bed and keep the road open, but make it to where the creek bed stays and doesn't follow the road.
So the closure would leave everybody out, no vehicle.
It'd be closed to the public, it would be administrative access only. The grazing permittee would be able to get up to those stock ponds with a key to get through the lock gate. And I don't know if there'd be any other authorized users who may need to get up there or not. Otherwise, it's open now to the public for hunting, camping, hiking, driving, exploring, whatever the public would want to do there.
And we've reached out to the Forest Service from the road department, and to go up there and look at that and see if there's a way that we can help to mitigate the problem in the creek, help reestablish it and keep those roads open. And so Nick wants to submit this letter to give us time to do that, because when they put this out, you couldn't even access it because of the snow on the mountain. And so, we'll be going up there Monday, with the group to go look at that. We just wanna have a comment in here that we would like to be involved in the process to see if we can keep those roads open.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Bearboy.
Mr. Chair, the letter that we're about to support is opposing the letter that was drafted by the Forestry Service. And it's less than 1 mile that is being proposed to close the road to protect these species. And I believe that there's some native plants in the area as well. And to me, less than 1 mile to be closed, and we're fighting to keep it open. My position would be to work with the state, the habitat, and the endangered habitats that's being proposed to be protected. And that would be my position on this particular item. Otherwise, we're fighting against the grain to draft a letter to oppose what the state is trying to do to save what wildlife is there.
Is there a motion or just a comment?
Okay, I'm going to put it in the form of motion.
Okay. Motion is made by Mr. Commissioner Boyd to support Mr. Sandberg, is it, or not?
No.
Or, I think if it's gonna be, in order to not support Mr. Sandberg's letter, then it would be a directive to, I believe what, Forest Service proposed.
So yeah, so you have on here, so your motion could be not to support Nick's letter, and then we'll reach out to the Forest Service and see what we can do.
No.
It's,
I'm not supporting the letter that's
Yeah, correct.
being sent.
Yeah, so you wouldn't support the letter.
I'm supporting the request, what the Forestry Service is proposing.
Forest Service is requesting closure of the route.
And so you would like, Nick could redraft the letter and change his comments,
Yes.
supporting closure of this area. So you can give them, so you could give him that directive on here, it's just, we don't support this letter, this is our wishes.
Or we just don't send the letter.
You don't send it, well, yeah, unless you're,
Yeah, that's the option, you don't do anything. It's about 1.5 miles on one road and, 0.4 of a mile on the other road.
yeah. would be to not support Nick's letter in the agenda, but direct him to make a comment to the Forest Service that the commission recommends closure of those roads. Is that right?
Yes, I would.
Okay, that's what we have.
Okay. That's your motion. Any second?
I won't second it because the state have a half interest in this road, and I don't think we can close the road without having the state participate. You know, the county owns a half interest, the state owns a half interest in the road. So to close a road, it would require both the state and the county to support
Highlight
the
that.
road closure.
Member?
I think, Commissioner Adams, you're referring to an RS-2477 claim. Is that what you're basing your comment on, Commissioner Adams?
Your comment, take the position that there's an
Permittees can get down to their ponds and pick their salt for their cattle and those kind of things. Permittees can get down to their ponds and then they put a gate across it and salt for their cattle and get a key. Those kind of things. Permittees can get down to their ponds and then they put a gate across it and salt for their cattle and get a key. Those kind of things. Permittees can get down to their ponds and then they put a gate across it and salt for
Coordinate with those permittees that raise cattle and do things. The road will still be open for all the grazers. It's just that, no hunky-dory ride by the good old boys or anybody with anything to just any time, any day. That's all it is, closing it for that. But the grazers will still be using having access to that. And that would be probably your part to work with Forest Service.
The good old boys apparently are the public, because if you close it to the public, then people who want to go gather wood or recreate or do anything else, the road's gonna be closed, it's gonna have a gate over it. Nick's letter says, we want to ask the Forest Service to work with the county to keep the road open, whatever we need to do to keep the road open, so that everybody that uses the road will have the ability to use the road, rather than close it. That's what his letter says.
Could I make a comment here? I don't know if that's allowed at this time or not.
So commissioners, you do have Forest Service representatives. You have Ted and Mark. Mark is the one that spoke up. If you'd like, we could hear from him.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Hey, I appreciate it. This is Mark Boschel with the state's Public Lands Office. I just wanted to piggyback on what Commissioner Adams just mentioned. The state does have a 1/2 interest in county roads when they're claimed by the county. It looks like this road is claimed by the county. That doesn't allow us to stop you from doing what you want to do. You know, the county can't abandon the road, stop fighting to keep it open. However, we do have a 1/2 interest. We do think it's important to keep access to areas, not only for the public, but also for, so the public can use these roads, like Commissioner Adams mentioned, gathering wood and whatnot. Our office always takes the position that if we can mitigate impacts, we can move the road and mitigate the problems with the water, with the sensitive plants, then I think we ought to do that. Because once we start closing roads, we oftentimes never get them back. The other issue I wanted to point out is that, if the Forest Service is willing to work with us on this, to keep it open, if we can mitigate those impacts, then everybody wins. The last thing I just wanted to mention, when we close roads to the public but keep them open for administrative purposes, it often creates issues with the public. They resent the fact that Forest Service or permittees can use it, but not them. So personally, I hesitate to keep roads limited to administrative use only. Anyway, that's my 2 cents and our perspective here from Bookville. Just wanted to throw that in.
Thanks, Mark. Ted, did you want to make a comment on there?
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners, and Mac, everyone. Just wanted to just quickly clarify what is going on right now in our how we're working with the county, and just wanted to say a few things about that. First, currently, our current plan there was to repair this crossing, and the particular specifics of that crossing would only work if we were able to limit road traffic across that crossing. And so that's why we currently have the proposal to have an administrative closure of the roads. Of course, we would allow the folks that need to get out to those stockpiles to get out there. But I do want to point out that was the specific engineering technique that we're going to use was the most low-cost one that could be devised. We are currently working with San Juan County to potentially have a more robust road crossing there that would allow us to achieve our goals, and then we would not need to close the roads. Now, I just wanted to point that out, that's something we're working on right now, and that's the crux of the matter for us. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ted.
Yes.
So that's what TJ is kind of recommending, is let us meet with the Forest Service and see what we can do to help them keep that open. If they can come up with some mitigation efforts, whether it's culverts or whatever the case is, to keep that open. You know, it's something, and we've worked well with the Forest Service on several other different roads throughout the county. They've been a great partner with us on those efforts, and a lot of it's just a matter of meeting together to see what we can do to help prevent the problem, find a solution to it.
Okay. So, you can modify your motion, Mr. Mayor Boy? There's a possibility that a meeting could be scheduled to assist county and also county roads. Mr. Sandberg and Forest Service staff to see if they can deliberate and come out with a recommendation for our consideration at a later date.
Well, Mr. Chairman, listening to the report from the state and the Forestry Service. The Forestry Service has a letter out concerning these areas. And we as a county, partnering with the state and also the Forestry Service, thinking that this would be another good way of working together. But the state comes in and brings in a different tune. Now the Forestry Service, I guess, I'm just trying to do what I can for what's best for the people. And my motion can be to work with the Forestry Service and see how we can develop a collaborative plan. That would be a working partnership with the county.
I think that's what Nick's letter was suggesting, that the county and the Forest Service get together and come up with a solution.
Nick's letter is opposing what the Forestry Service is trying to do.
Nope.
But if we just leave out modification, just call for the question, see where this goes.
Okay, my understanding is that, neither of those letters from the Forest Service or from Mr. Separate will be, put on the shelf. These individuals will get together and come out with a solution and recommendation, a new approach. That's the way I understood. And probably involve the state because they indicated there's indication that their interest is 50% of the project, so. That would be, directed Mr. Seibert to, circulate, schedule a meeting.
We can do that.
Yeah, he agrees with it. You can modify your motion.
Mr. Chairman, I did modify my motion to so move with the recommendation you just highlighted.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Adams.
That's exactly what the letter says in the last paragraph.
So, with that, call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. 3 in favor, any opposed? None? Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, so that takes care of your recognitions, presentations, and informational items. Now, we go back to item number 11 on the agenda, which was the one that you pulled from the consent item for further discussion. You have the approval of the purchase and installation of an air conditioning system for the Cow Black Airport by Moab Heat and Cool for $8,490.39. This project here, so last year we received 2 tranches of COVID money that were specific to the airport and can only be used for airport, and it was to help in maintenance items at the airport or, loss of revenue. We have a forward operating base, or a forward operator that operates the airport for us on a contract, and so it's still, every year you fund a specific amount of funds in our budget to participate in the maintenance of the operations, of that airport. We pay for computers, phone systems, anything building related. In that building, we have had a swamp cooler for years, since the construction of the building. That swamp cooler, only one half of the swamp cooling system is working right now. And so with $9,000 of that grant, so the second grant was for $9,000 specifically, the first grant was for $20,000 specifically, and so we felt that $8,490.39 of the grant would go to helping with improving the HVAC system in the building. We reached out to Moab Heating and Cooling, as well as the company that designed the solar system on this building, and asked them kind of what the load calculations and load requirements would be for an HVAC system where we're putting a heat pump, kind of a split system, heating and cooling on this building. We wanted to make sure that we had the proper load calculation, that we wouldn't jeopardize the operations of the airport in any way, knowing that we're going to take part of the solar power that's generated from the solar panels there and stored in the batteries. We didn't want to put them in any critical issues or concerns with having a newer HVAC system there. The engineers and everybody have told us that this is fine, and they've given recommendations to Moab Heating and Air of what type of system that they would recommend, and that's why you see a little bit higher costs on here than a regular home heating and cooling system would be. This one here is specifically designed for a smaller load startup on the heating and cooling, so that it wouldn't jeopardize anything with that solar power system. Comes with the inverter compressor that helps with that. Other than that, that's kind of everything that I have with this one here. We still do have the $20,000 of grant funds that would go towards maintenance. Those can be spent anywhere from the beginning of 2020 on to 2024. We've been working with the forward operating there. Dave, he's been helpful in trying to target projects that we can use. There's some old gas pumps that are on site that are no longer working. We've been able to find replacement parts for that gas pump. When I asked him to get us a price of how much the gas pump would be, a brand new one, $16,000, and so we're still looking for parts. We don't want to necessarily spend all of the money on just HVAC and the gas pump. I would like to kind of spread it out. There's some deterioration on some of the posts that are used for the beams on the building. You've got some leaking toilets and drainage issues coming back up into the building. You've got some leaking on the roof that we'd like to take care of, and so just kind of a myriad of issues out there at Cal Black. We don't get out there a lot, but we do keep track of a list of all the maintenance needs that are ongoing and check them off one by one as we get to them. Any questions with this item?
How much use, daily use is the airport?
How much
Are
daily
there-
use?
I know it's not a commercial airport.
So you do actually have commercial flights on there. There's a standard limit on the aircraft that can be used on this airport, and you get a lot of use, not necessarily throughout the winter, as much as you do the summer, the spring. People are flying out there, right now. Received a call last week saying that one of our other systems that we're supposed to maintain was down on the weather relay. I could get you the specific numbers of touches that we receive out there, but this airport, Cal Black, even though it's further out there, it helps support Lake Powell. So you have people flying in that park their boats, their houseboats close to here or down to the marina. They'll fly in, we taxi them down. We have a van that taxis people down to Lake Powell. And then with that, we also are the main location for search and rescue. Any flights that have to go out, emergency flights that come in on or have to go out on airplane, they touch down here on this side. So we're kind of that emergency response and takeoff for the airport. But there's specific numbers that they've come out with, and I'll get that. The state's supposed to be updating that, and I'll bring that back as a bigger presentation. But they do consider this airport here as one of those that adds to the economy in San Juan County because of the touches that are out there. You don't necessarily realize it, but every time I've been out there, we've had people that touch down out there, and the airplanes that are just sitting there on the taxiway, and they're out either fishing or boating on Lake Powell. Surprisingly so, this is also one of those things as we look for further economic development opportunities. We've talked to Goldings about trying to tie in with Goldings to where we can have a chartered flight. It'd be awesome to get a chartered flight going from Goldings where they can stay at Goldings at night, land at our airport in Cal Black early in the morning, go out on a boat, recreating on the boat, Lake Powell, and come back into the airport and fly back out to Goldings, all just within a day. And so we're trying to get that network going, and we talked to Goldings last time they were in about the potential for that. You've also seen, as we upgrade the airport there, the runway, you'll also start to see a little bit more utilization of the airport, knowing that the airport runway is in top shape. Right now, some of the messaging that's out on the internet says that this isn't a very good runway. It's not very good in the sense that it's cracked and needs to be replaced. That's why we're going through that replacement project this year. But once that's off of the website as, an updated runway, you'll see more touches out there as well. Then kind of when you look at the future of that area as, you've seen the discussions in the past with the national parks in trying to get a better or a different vendor out at this marina. If we can change the vendor, right now you have Airmark, Reed's Airmark, that's the vendor out there. We're hoping that we can get a little bit more focus and attention. There used to be a lot more boats at this marina.
Airmark will never.
So the national park, the national park is going out, and you heard, I believe it was last year, the national park, right before COVID, the national park was getting ready to release an RFP on the vendors, and they were going to separate the vendors on there. We're hoping that is still the case. I think now that everybody's starting to come out of the woodwork, that we can start to push more of that to get a different vendor. We also have a gentleman that I've been speaking with just kind of offline. He doesn't have anything formal to present to you, but he would like to go out and build a hangar out at the airport for an airplane mechanic shop. He says that airplane owners and operators will fly anywhere if they know that there's a good mechanic. And so he feels that would be a viable business. They're out there in the middle of nowhere. It's like people, they don't care, they will fly. They'll fly to a good mechanic. And so he's looking at that opportunity where we would be able to lease him space out of the Cal Black Airport for his hangar, for that business purpose, and so it's things that, like that we're working on, so.
What about the air traffic from, H
Across to here, I don't know.
to Calvet?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'll have to research that and get you some information on there. The state's done a study on how many touches, take place out
H
there.
flies people to Monument Valley.
Mhm.
If you say, it would include H, Monument Valley, and Bullfrog. Or the Calvet Airport.
Yeah. So they should skip page. And just do Monument Valley and Calvet. I think one of the things that we can do better on is advertising, for opportunities there. And I remember Natalie had talked to you about it in the past. We have all that frontage property outside of the airport boundaries where, we could easily do something, with a developer on the frontage of that property, to make it a little bit more inviting and offer a little bit more opportunities than what we've done in the past, and so.
Okay. Any other comments or question or a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Commissioner Maryville.
so, Matt, we have, $8,490.39 from the COVID, and we don't know where to put it, so we decided to put it with, where the airport is.
No,
And,
we're legally required to put it and spend it on the airport. This is FAA funds that came last year specifically to aid in airports with deferred maintenance that they would have put off, due to the impacts of COVID. So if you think of last year, everything was shut down. People were super hesitant to recreate. You had less tourists in the area. And so this was just an effort by the FAA to assist in any means available. And this was one of them that we targeted as an opportunity where
okay.
we don't have to take
The
our
other one
funds
is,
for it.
do we have a roster of incoming flights
I'll get that.
and outgoing?
We
And
do.
also, how many staff do we have
3.
that's already there?
So we got 3 employees that the contract covers. So you have the operator and then his 2 staff that are paid for through him. So the county, they're not county employees. He's paid to operate the airport. He pays his staff out of the revenue and everything. He's got fuel out there that they provide to airplanes. Some of the service, one of the employees, we receive almost weekly on Wednesday morning, they receive flights out of Cedar City. They participate with the school there that teaches airplane pilots out of Cedar City. They fly in and she makes them Navajo tacos or scones every Wednesday morning. And so it's kind of a ritual there. The students will fly out. She cooks for them, and then they fly back. Just that in alone counts as a touch for them. So every week you got several planes that are like that just come in. So,
And the airport is still almost like a storage, right?
so on the outside, and I'm glad you brought that up. The outside of the airport, outside of the airport perimeter, he leases, and we allow him to lease boat stalls or just boat areas where pilots, if they have a boat, they can store their boat there. he charges them a fee. He makes that revenue off of the boats. There are some boats there when Airmark, kind of pulled a lot of their docks and everything, pushed them to Bullfrog. There were several of the boats that have been abandoned there. And so throughout this next year, you'll see us work with our county attorney on notifying those previous owners that who aren't paying rent in this area to come and move their boats, or we're gonna confiscate them. So there is up to the front of that property, kind of that boat storage that they've allowed in the past. We need to go through and clean that up, make sure that there are people that are actually paying rent, and if they're not, the county has a houseboat they need to sell.
Yeah.
Okay, with that information, do we have a time frame when this needed to be approved and?
So this one here, yeah, you will, just with air conditioning, they'd like to get out there as soon as possible. We're trying to beat the heat of the season. Right now, it's starting to get a little hot and warm out there in this area as it is, and so we're just trying to get a jump on everything.
For clarification, this is not county money.
This is not county money. This is FAA.
Well, I wish.
Sorry, Commissioner. Commissioner Gray has asked a question. He just wanted to make sure that this wasn't county money, and he's correct. This isn't county money. It's FAA money that was allotted to the county in operations of the airport. So as a reminder, anytime you take federal aviation funds, you're obligated to keep that airport up and operational for 20 years. They do not let you close down an airport that they've received federal funds, and so we're grateful this year and last year that they provided this maintenance money, because it helps us. We don't have to come up with general funds to make these big expenditures, but also know that this year's project of that airport runway replacement project, that will also be funded 100%. Whereas going into this year's budget, we budgeted money to pay for our 5% of the project, which is, I think it was just under $200,000. The FAA has come back and announced last week that they're going to be funding 100%. So they funded 100% of the design last year, and this year they're funding 100% of the runway rehabilitation and the taxiway. And so, super awesome, but yeah, none of this is county general fund specific.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for Moab Heat and Cool to do the work at Cow Black.
Mr. Adam, motion to, move to approve the, proposed fund allocation. Is there a second? Mr. Maryboy, are you still connected?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, take a position. I'm not gonna oppose it, but I'm gonna abstain it, because, there's some other information that I just kind of highlighted to Mr. McDonald. I'd like to see that, compared to the, airport, Monticello, and also the Cow Black Airport.
What was your
I think it's the same question that you had, is how many touches are there?
Comparison.
Yeah, and I'll get you that, the state had gone through and they tracked all this data for us. They haven't released the information yet, but I'll reach out to them, as well to obtain that, just to see where they're at. And a lot of the study that they were looking at is, do these airports provide an economic benefit to counties and cities? And it's just preliminary. They're like, hey, Cal Black does provide an economic boost to San Juan County, but as far as the actual numbers that have touched down, they haven't provided that information to me. I can ask Dave and see if Dave Kimberly has that.
Okay. I'll go ahead and second the motion. But we need that information
Okay.
to,
We'll get that for you.
kill the giant Texas.
Yeah.
Now, who this is the giant,
It's
twin
like,
killers, twin brothers, killing the giant. Long story.
Do we get a
Although-
second on that?
we did get a second.
I second it,
Okay.
so with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. How do you vote? Kenneth?
Abstain.
2 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstain. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, commissioners. The next one, so we're now on to item 17. Item 17 is public hearing and consideration of a petition to vacate and close D1834 and D5307 roads. Turn it over to TJ to give us a brief presentation. Well, do you want to me, I was thinking if we have his presentation first, then we can open up the public hearing after that.
Okay, so we've been petitioned by a landowner to vacate these 2 roads that end on their property. And so if you look at your maps that are in your packet, these like D1834 start, when it enters their property, to the end of that road is 0.914 miles. And D5307, when it enters their property, goes 0.144 miles. And then they end together. These roads, 1834 comes across state land. It will end after the state land, so all the public land on that road will still be accessible. We have a letter in your packet from Sitla in agreement that they are fine with the road closure on that end. And then we also have a letter from the state of Utah showing in their research that it won't deny public access if we close those roads. And that's also in your packet. There's some pictures in there that show D5307 that shows a gate, and that is on BLM property that doesn't even allow you to get to the private property on 5307. And so reviewing this, and I went out there and walked all of this to look at what the petition is, and it's right now there's no public access to it. Off 5307, it goes by the river and goes through some pretty rough terrain that's not very wide, probably about, I would say 30 feet wide, but nothing that's traveled on for years and years. And on the other end, they'd like to close it there where it comes on their property. Basically, they've had some trespassing issue where the sheriffs have had to be out there for years. And so this way it will close that section of road, but like I said, it won't affect any any access to public property. All of the comments that I have had reached out to my office are all in favor of closing the road, so when we open this up to public hearing, I think there might be some people that make a comment in favor of, but I haven't heard any opposing the road. Yeah, that picture right there, Commissioner Gray, shows that there's no access around that. It's like an old rancher gate, you know, to push cows or something through. It's been there for a lot of years, but there's no road access to it. And so we show on the map a road, but when you actually go walk it, 5307 is pretty much non-existent.
Looks like somebody traveled to, something that, disturbed the bush.
That's to get down there and take the pictures.
Didn't Walker.
Well, I just know that you can't get through that gate. You gotta climb over the,
They can jump over.
you gotta climb over that one section of it because the bushes have grown up through that gate. So,
Yeah, it looks pretty thick. On the other side.
Geographically, where is this in the county?
it's up off the Schaefer Basin Trail, that road, up by Potash, Moab Salt. So if you look at, there's the map that has it's a bigger map, this one here. So these are Moab Salt's ponds,
Okay.
and they're actually here today, and so they'll make a comment in it. And so it comes off of their property actually and goes down onto this other property. And so that's where it's at, and it just goes down along the river. There's, like I said, the state owns a lot of land out there, and they just wanted to make sure that didn't close any access to state land, which it does not. And then the other one comes off of Moab Salt's property out there, and so. My recommendation from the road department is to allow us to vacate those roads, on the private property. The only thing that we would vacate is on the private property.
Motion, sir.
We don't have anything to do with private property.
I'll make a motion, we go into public hearing.
Motion is made by Mr. Adams to, allow for public hearing. Do I hear a second?
I did.
Okay, public hearing is open. Anyone?
Let's see, let me jump on here and see what I've got online real fast. So it's kind of the same thing with the public hearing. We'll give everybody 3 minutes. If you're wishing to make a public comment on here, go ahead and raise your hand.
I think these people come here and make public comment.
Yeah, we'll get these two a chance. I'm not seeing anybody online raising their hands. We do have some members here of the public in our audience today. Do you guys wish to speak to this?
I think that's why we're here.
Okay, just state your name and where you live, what your address is.
Do we wanna wait for Commissioner Graz to come back in?
We may have a brief intermission here. Okay. Commissioner Marable, you had Commissioner Gray is up and left us. So just a second.
Did you say Commissioner Merrill left too?
No, Commissioner Gray, Commissioner Gray is left. Commissioner Marable is still here.
I'm here.
Okay, be just a second. Commissioner Gray walked out, took his phone.
Dan said he's just sent me a text that he was trying to raise his hand. I'm not sure if it, he wasn't able to make it down. Dan? He's not able to make it down in front of you.
Okay, Dan, we'll give you a second once. We'll turn it to the audience here and then I'll let you speak to it. John Heyman. Yes. Welcome back. Okay. Commissioner's back. Okay, 3 minutes we'll give you on here. So, any one of you wishing to address us on here? If not, we'll turn it to Dan. Dan's online and we know he wants to.
Can't hear anything.
Dan. Okay, Dan, are you there?
You might need to let them sit there, TJ, to make their comments. You can turn that.
Let's see, so you're unmuted on here. I can see you unmuted, but I cannot hear you. Still nothing, Dan.
Let me, maybe I just patch him through here on the speakerphone. Is that okay, Commissioner?
Absolutely, yeah, that'll work.
Throw that there. If we can hear that.
Hello, this is Dan.
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen. Let's see, I've got some Rivardo going here in the background, so let me drop that off. See if that helps. Well, thank you very much, and gentlemen, thank you for working through lunch hour. We probably have you all quite hungry. But, Mac, I love your whiteboard behind you. It says you can do this, so I've got confidence. I would also like to thank TJ and Greg Adams, Scott Burton, Planning and Zoning Commission, Natalie from the Economic Development. We've been able to talk and work with a lot of your employees and appointed officials, elected officials. It's just been great to work with, so we appreciate that very much. The request that we have before you is merely to abandon those tail end sections or portions of that road D5307 and D1834, which end up on private property. And it's primarily for security purpose, as the letter from Sharon, the current owner and administrator of the trust, indicates that they really haven't been used for years. There really aren't roads there. There's, as TJ showed, even the goats don't go around that gate. They're just pretty much all closed off. But it doesn't deny or restrict any public access to private lands. They're not listed on the RS 2477 road claims list. Both of the roads that we're talking about are only mapped roads. They don't really exist physically. There never has been a right-of-way easement or granted or any kind of eminent domain exercised on the property. And the portions we're talking about is only those portions that are on the private property as TJ outlined. There's actually no physical connection between the two roads. So there's really nothing there. It's primarily just security for our purposes. In talking to the state, they've indicated they would give the lead to the county. And once the roads were vacated under code, Utah Code 72-3-108, they would vacate their ownership or their position as well. So we don't think it adversely impacts anybody other than the county. One county commissioner said those guys that like this travel around and cause a nuisance on other people's property, and it may impact them, hopefully so. But we did have positive support from Sitla, Brian Torgensen, and I've gone over this, and I believe he's indicated and provided a letter or email to TJ there. And also Rick York is there. I think Rick's maybe going to talk to this, but we did get a letter from the State Highway Department to UDOT, Charles Stormont, who's in concurring with this, so, as TJ, and I don't know if that's too formal, TJ, did anybody call you Todd, or they just always call you TJ?
TJ's fine.
Don't ask us what we really call him.
Alright, well, we don't think it creates any negative impact on anyone, any place, and they've really not been under any use for over 30 years, they're only mapped, so we'd appreciate the commissioners doing this, so we can restore the ranch and kind of get it up and running and be able to secure the property, and so, thank you so much for your time and your attention on this, gentleman. I know we're working you past lunch hour, but that's what we public employees do, right? We're generous with our time. That's it, Mac.
Thank you, Dan, appreciate that. Alright, let's see, anyone else?
So I'll speak to you. You want me to come?
Do you wanna speak up? Yeah, come on up. Okay, we've got one more here, just state your name and.
Turn that around so we can see all your hair.
Right. Get closer. My name's Rick York, I'm the general manager. We're no longer called Moab Salt as of about 15 years ago. We're called Intrepid Potash, but, and being the neighbor to this property, actually we lease from SIVA and from the feds all the property that comes up next to that. So it shows it's state land and federal land, but actually we lease the surface rights for that. And we have no objection to the road closure. So, I think it's a good thing. I can remember going down there and trying to crawl through that tamarisk, and it's really hard to get through down on that property. Any questions on that?
Does that provide any kind of, will that provide security for you at all to close those private parts?
It would provide security for them.
Yeah.
I'll be back to talk about our road some other time.
Okay.
So, cause it's the same thing basically, and there are people out there all the time.
Yeah.
So, we can continue this at a later date, so, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, anyone else, the public, who would like to make a public comment for this item? If you do, go ahead and unmute yourself. And we only have unmuted here is James, right? You were fine.
Yep.
Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, Commissioner, we turn it back to you to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Motion made by Mr. Adams to close the public comment. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second by Commissioner Maryboy. Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Three in favor, any opposed? 0. Motion passed. Now we're back to, the document. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we, follow the recommendation of our road superintendent, Todd Adair, and close portions of the D roads titled D 1834 and D 5307 as has been presented here today.
Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Maryboy, second the motion. To, close roads at the private property line.
Right.
D 1834 is 0.9 miles. D 537 is 0.1 mile. So with those, strips of zone roads, call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. 3 in favor, any opposed, none. Motion passed. Go ahead and check those roads off the system.
Looks like they're already closed. Might have to open them to close them.
Well, I know I walked them, cause I wouldn't drive my truck down.
Next,
Alright, the next one you got, let's see, we are, let me make sure I'm on the right one. Item 18, consideration and approval to purchase $129,000, or 129,000 gallons of pass oil to chip seal roads for FY 2021. This one here will be, presented by Todd as well.
Okay, so this is just our oil that we use to chip our roads. We mine our own chips, so we have those, so we gotta have the oil to lay them down to chip our county roads for the fiscal year, the ones we have, and so, this is the sole, provider on this 129,000 gallons that we'll need, so we can go ahead and chip our stuff this spring and into the summer, so that's what it is. Another point I'd like to, the reason I'm bringing it a little earlier than we normally do is because if we get this signed, then we lock in the price. And with the price of fuel going up, where everybody's anticipating a surcharge, and so we'd like to lock this price in, so if it does go up, we're under contract that they can't raise our price. And with oil and the price of gas going up, we'd like to get it locked in.
what's the, amount?
I had it in there. Is it-
399,900.
And it's in the budget that I put in for
Okay,
this year's budget.
sounds good.
I'll make a motion, we approve the request from the road department to purchase the pass oil.
Second the motion?
Motion made by Commissioners Mr. Adams and Mr. Surveyor. Second. It's crystal clear, I guess. So therefore, call for the vote.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion passed.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Next,
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, TJ.
Better stick around here.
I thought they were, they
They
called
also
you
come-
air.
We gotta walk up and talk to, how long does it take to get a check cut for that truck?
Alright. Let's see.
Library contract.
Now, 18,
19. So item 19, we got consideration and approval of the Library Services and Technology Act contract grant for $5,000 between San Juan County Library System and the Utah Department of Heritage Art. This one will be presented by Nicole. Nicole, I see you on here. Go ahead, Nicole.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is just a contract for a grant. We usually get it every year. It is a federal grant. I actually need to make that correction. I put on earlier that it was a state grant. It is a grant. And it's just to purchase older IT equipment or replace aged IT equipment or purchase newer equipment to add to help facilitate the needs of the community.
motion by Mr. Barry Boy.
I'll make a second with a question.
Yes,
Mr. Adams,
Nicole, where are you gonna replace equipment at in our library system?
well, we've got quite a bit of equipment we need to update, both in Blanding, Monticello, Montezuma Creek, Bluff,
Okay,
and LaSalle.
okay, thank you.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Aye. Three in favor, zero opposed. Bente, 20.
Okay, this one here is consideration and approval of contract between San Juan County and Dr. Michael Q. Nielsen for the required medical director services for the San Juan County Sheriff's Office. This one here looks like our TAC team, and we've got Sheriff Torgensen there, and we also have Marcia Shinway. Both are presenting.
Okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon,
Sure.
Commissioners, thanks for, taking this time to consider this contract. Just a little history, in years past, one medical director was over both EMS and also the dispatchers. We have to have a medical director review all the dispatch cars and all the protocols. Recently, the doctors told us that he's too busy and needed to cut some stuff from his, schedule, so he cut the dispatcher part of it, the medical director over the dispatchers, he had to cut that, so we need to enter into another contract with another doctor, and we've reached out to a few doctors, but Dr. Nielsen said he would be willing to do that. So we're seeking to enter into a contract with him to review of our EMD dispatchers. So this is the contract. We didn't have it, the fiscal impact is, we didn't have this in our budget, but we're thinking that we can take it out of our dispatch salaries. The contract is, he will charge us $25 an hour when he's, doing stuff, reviewing calls, reviewing our dispatch cards, and so forth, so. And then he will submit an invoice to us, and we think we can take that out of the dispatch salaries for this, budget year. Anything you want to add?
I think we better hurry and approve this. I've never heard a doctor work that cheap.
I know. Yeah, that's pretty much doing it for a service, really.
Yeah, I'll say. I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Adams, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Maryboy. Any further question? Chief, use the word. And hurry up. Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, 0. 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it. Okay, the next item on here is the approval of the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem in Southern Utah Support Letter for Southeastern Utah Economic Development for their grant request to the U.S. Economic Development Administration. You've been seeing a lot of these come through as it's grant season and everybody needs letters of support for those grants. This is one of them that Southeastern Utah is applying for, and just want us to acknowledge that we do work with them and support their efforts. We obviously with our staff there, Jerry, they've been super helpful in the past with us, and so we encourage any additional funds that they can seek to help us, because in turn, it just comes right back to us in the end.
Motion for approval?
Second.
Commissioner Maryboy, motion to approve, second by Mr. Adams. Any question? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Next.
Okay, the next one, you've got consideration and approval of the 2021 sponsorship agreement between San Juan County and Chadwick Booth and Company for $17,000. This one here, you had asked originally for us to table this, and you had instructed me to go out and find out more information. So you tabled it on the February 2nd meeting. Since that point in time, I've reached out to Chadwick and Booth, Chad, and he's here, as well as Derek. Both of you know them well, how they've assisted us in the county in the past. But in your packet of information, you had asked me to provide further information of what they've really done for the county in the past. And so with their efforts, we've gone back and they presented what they've done in 2019 as well as 2020. If you look at some of the materials that they provided on here is through those efforts that they've listed on there, they've received 47,257 views, and on that 562,700 impressions. The watch time in total, if you were to total all of that effort that they've done, it's 210,000 minutes alone just through the production that you see on either ABC4 or on the YouTube channel or online. They have 2 broadcast times on Saturday and Sunday that they broadcast through to about 72,000 viewers. A little history on here as well is the county commission had a difficult time just reaching out and letting the public know of what their concerns are or what efforts were being made throughout the state, throughout the county, and contracted with Chadwick and Booth to help provide a little bit more public awareness. And so through those efforts, you're able to, direct your audience to San Juan County public, San Juan County residents, in targeted ads, targeted broadcasts, but it's kind of up to you on placing that. So this last year, just alone, they've done over 30 segments that are specifically related and can tie in to San Juan County and San Juan County's political efforts as a county itself, or those that affect the county. If it's a state legislative issue, then our residents will be able to see that by watching County Seat. So those efforts here, and you see those kind of spelled out, that his team has done for us, but as always, he's looking for more information. And to me, and just as a reminder, we are required to spend 30% of our revenue, our TRT revenue, going back into marketing and campaigns. Well, this is one of those resources that we spend marketing on and reaching out to the citizens, as well as reaching out to a general audience, because this isn't just Utah alone that receives and views these. There's several different states that these commercials go out on and attract the attention of different residents and different stakeholders. Those people that are coming and traveling to San Juan County also have opportunities to see these as they're Googling San Juan County on YouTube. Some of these also pop up on their channel, and so it's a great marketing tool that we've used here in the past. And so, Chad, I don't know if you have anything that I haven't touched on that you'd like to say.
No, thanks, Mac. I think you basically have given a good summary. I just wanted to be on hand to answer any specific questions from the commissioners that they might have to help clear it up. We've had a long-standing relationship with San Juan County, and our goal is to try and represent you to the general public of Utah. You know, when Commissioner Stevens was in many years ago, when we first started the county seat, he kind of missed what the idea was. He said a lot of people in my county don't see county seat because they live out on the reservation. They don't get our TV signals. And I caught him at the state capitol during the legislative session, and I said, you kind of missed the point. It's not about trying to communicate to the people within the county. It's trying to communicate about the issues that affect the county to the rest of the state legislatures, to the people that live on the Wasatch Front, so that the issues that you need to try to communicate to the outside world have a forum that they can be discussed. And really, the counties get to set the agenda. We're always looking for and give top priority to a request to discuss a topic from the county, as would be the case with the roads that we did specifically for San Juan County 2 years ago on the school routes. Going out to look at the water situation on the reservation. Those are specific things that the county commission had discussions with us about, thinking that it would be important to get out. I think we did a good job on those, and that's basically why we're here, and it's to represent the official voice of the county of San Juan. Did anybody hear that?
I did, yeah.
Good all.
You are, appreciate it.
Given the start of the meeting, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Several moments of silence.
Yeah, I'm looking at your list. So, you talk too fast though. You finish before I could go through the list. Yeah. Well, looking at some of these items, probably were aired. A number of them are related to Navajo Nation, San Juan County, Utah. A number of them are regarding the 7-county infrastructure coalition. I guess federal and state and county voting, profiles that were aired. I don't know about wild horses. There are wild horses on the Navajo Nation. I know.
Well, I've seen them there, whether the issues that they have in western Beaver County are the same as the ones that they have in San Juan County, I don't know, but I've firsthand seen some off the shores of Lake Powell when I've been up the San Juan River arm, so I know they're out there.
Yeah. Those are probably, well, they are wild horses. I know there's a lot of them on Douglas Mesa, south of San Juan River. And there's quite a bit up on Black Mesa. There's quite a bit on Paiute Mesa, And, but those probably get, due to forts, lack of forts and lack of water, they are being reduced by natural causes. Nobody's hauling the water for them. And I don't know, it's up to the other two commissioners. Mr. Adams, Commissioner Adams made a motion to approve the $17,000 contract with county seat, yeah. I think there's more project that needs to be exposed. One of two of the, it just says water settlement. It's the state of Utah and water settlement. Now that the projects literally exposing if a study could be done that would depict whether 85 million acre feet of water is enough. And my position is not enough. They calculated.
We had an opportunity to discuss that. If we need to come back and discuss the water issue again, I think that what you and I covered in that episode was very enlightening to a lot of people on the Wasatch Front, because they thought the problems were solved as soon as the state signed off on a water settlement, and they were unaware of some of the remaining issues that you and I had an opportunity to cover out there, along with our producer Derek, who is here at this meeting with us, hiding behind the big brown knee. But he could expose himself if he wanted and join in this conversation. But I thought that was a very effective show, and I think talking about the school bus routes was equally enlightening for people who live in metropolitan areas and have no idea what the situation is like out in rural San Juan County.
Right. Well, specifically looking at it now, looking back, the engineers that did the planning and design for possibilities of allocating those water, acres of water. Estimated over what was agreed to, and not addressing certain areas. So those are some of the things that I'm trying to wrestle with it.
Well, that sounds like a very good thing for us to come back and revisit. That sounds like a topic that's just well suited for San Juan County, so.
Yeah, and more isolated, remote area, transportation, water system. Those are some of the subjects that I would like to put up in the air for public view.
Well,
Hopefully,
I'm sure Derek is feverishly taking notes on this right now.
hopefully, they would donate to my cause. Because the estimate of the road between Ojito and Nansan, Navajo Mountain is about $1.5 million.
Bruce, you're like E.F. Hutton. You speak and everybody listening is going like this.
I made a motion, right?
Yeah, you got a motion
Yeah.
from Mr. Hans.
Mr. Adam, motion. Is there a second? Okay, motion is made by Mr. Adam. I would like to go ahead and entertain the second.
Mr. Eisler, are you there?
Are you still part on the hill?
Might be getting lunch.
Oh, yeah, that's not fair.
And not showing. Commissioner Mary, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, good. So, you have any comment, Mr. Mary Boy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe a little brief, comment. There are a lot of concerns and a lot of, issue going on in San Juan County with euthanizers. Of course, one of them is always going to be the road. We've, went over that. The condition has not changed from the Navajo Nation. Matter of fact, Mac and I, we were on a meeting with Mr. Silversmith and some other individuals about the road, neglecting the park in Utah. And it seems like we try hard to haul the road jumping up and down and nobody's willing to lift a finger. And the other issue is the water settlement. It's here, and right now there's so many things happening. I don't see anybody out there running around to make a good statement on that. Mike and I, we were keeping in touch with a group of people. They're trying to develop a co-op to reinstate some of the farming plots. All of that's happening, nobody's out there. Then at the same time, we have an issue and a concern with the monument that was developed by the Utah Navajos in San Juan County. And nobody seems to want to come out and touch up on that.
Well,
all of these, there's a lot of good things happening and nobody's doing it. And I have a lot of faith in my county staff. I would say that over and over many times, and I do believe that we have good people in the Economic Development Office. And there's they're way creative in a lot of ways. And they're trying to do whatever they can with the advertisement budget that they have. I wish they would get $17,000 to do their advertisement, but with their level that they have. And here we're trying to put $17,000 into a show that the Wasatch Front maybe get to watch every now and then. And the whole European markets are, and from the east and the west coast markets, are out there readily available, and we need help, and nobody seems to be there. So I don't know who's the second. The chair made a second. I will abstain with this comment, sir.
Okay. Well, a lot of our concerns are put out to communicate with the possibility of air disinformation on public. I think for our purpose, it's just to educate, give notice to the public. The second thing that we don't do that needs to be done is follow-up. And these projected projects, if we need solicitation or support, then we can go to these individual counties and possibly state to support us in going after federal funds, elevating our needs to improve health related, which are transportation, roads, not only identifying these, but we need to put it into a written statement where it could be read also.
If I may add something to this, and Commissioner Maraboy, I understand your concern, but there are issues that take time to get things done. We started this show 11 years ago, and jail funding for contracting counties was an issue in the very beginning year. It's still an issue. The victory didn't come about getting proper jail funding all at once. It's come in little steps. Sometimes you have to go back and circle around and say, hey, wait a minute, we talked about this before, but you're not paying attention, and go back and readdress the issue. If the road issue hasn't moved, that's a good news story, but we need to know about it. I don't have a big network where I've got correspondents in the field. My correspondents are you, the elected county officials. When you see a problem that needs further clarification or attention, all you gotta do is contact us, and we'll pick it up and run with it. We never do it that way.
Wow, Okay, well, Mr. Chair, with that, I guess, if I was getting $17,000 from 29 counties, or 28 counties, and my job would be to listen to every county that inserts the money into the program to look whatever their needs are. And you don't have to wait around and receive money from the counties to go out and raise a story. If I was getting money like that, I'd go up and visit with the counties every now and then, see what they're doing. So, call for the question, Chair.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Yay.
Okay, 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you, Chad.
Thank you. I will take my departure. I will be in touch.
Okay.
I've got another thing to talk to you about, Max, so hopefully you'll have some office hours after this meeting today.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out to you.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Thanks Derek as well for his help.
Yep.
Okay, let's see, we are on item 23. So item 23 is the Spanish Valley Special Service District Board Recommendation Appointment Approval. On here, let's see, when was it? Get to my notes. So we had heard this on the February 16th commission meeting. And I think it was done at a previous commission meeting as well. So on January 19th, you guys have tabled it. We waited for Commissioner Greyeyes to come back from a meeting, or to be in the meeting, and then we heard it in February 16th commission meeting, where in the end, the commission voted to reject the Special Service District recommendation. The Special Service District's recommendation at the time was they recommended replacement of the 3 board members whose terms were up. Those 3 board members would have been Frank Darcy, Lloyd Wilson, and Mike Bynum. They had, the Special Service District recommended that you continue with those 3 board members and just extend their terms for an additional 4 years. During your discussion, you had entertained the potential to appoint 2 other people, Monet and David, on there as members, but then there was a question of who the 3rd member should be. So you pushed and denied the recommendation, pushing it back to the Special Service District so that they could kind of review and discuss kind of what your guys' recommendations were, or just kind of the flavor of the meeting. So I had met with them. They met on March 10th and reviewed possible suggestions in that meeting. I had proposed the possibility of taking the commission's recommendation and appointing 2 other new candidates to the positions, or the possibility of meeting in a joint meeting with both bodies. That was my ultimate preference, is having the commissioner and the Special Service District meet in one meeting and just go through an interview process of the candidates. During the meeting, the Special Service District, they pretty much opted to stick with the decision that they had originally made, which was to recommend back to the commission to renew those terms of the 3 existing board members. So that's what they had commented back to you. That's what they had made the motion and recommended that back. In reviewing just kind of the special service district needs, and this is where I've made a recommendation to the commissioners to reappoint Frank Darcy and Lloyd Wilson, who are existing board members on the special service districts. So to reappoint them and then to accept Dave Bacardi as a new member. That would mean that you would not be renewing the term for Mike Bynum. And then in the review of the candidates, I provided you a summary, and I need to make a correction. Frank Darcy is actually retired from the National Park Service, not the Forest Service, so that was my bad. Sorry, Frank, for that. But Frank retired from the Forest